This video deals with styling display text. So let's start out with the definition. Most definitions include display text as anything above 14 point. So think headlines, subheads, maybe some sidebars, pull quotes. You can really consider it to be anything larger than your body copy. And some kind of design terms you want to think about it when you're styling your display text is consistency and contrast. So how do you combine those two seemingly different concepts? You want to have consistency. So a great option when you're thinking about display text is to think about font families. So when you choose a font, choosing something that might have a lot of options is a good choice for your display text, especially if you're a beginner designer. Another good rule of thumb is try not to have more than, say, 2 fonts differing in your display. And different designers might change that number, but the key is edit yourself. However, you want some contrast in there. So think of ways you can kind of combine some different fonts to create that contrast. So we're going to work on our, but I wanted to point out that I've done some work with this pull quote, and I did a little styling of some not really meeting the definition of display text down here because it's 10 point, but even this differential with having a bold and then a regular is an example of styling some display text. Bolding keywords in these pull quotes, another good example of styling display text. And I'm using all the same font in that, so nothing unusual there. So what we're going to look at first is creating some text along this path I created. And I just created that path clicking along with my pen tool, which is that tool. And now I have my Type on Path tool selected, and I'm going to click on my path and add my type. And this is just going to be for the word explore. And we're going to increase the size here. And so that is flowing that text. Now switch to my direct selection tool, change where my text begins to kind of change how that looks. And so that's one way to style your display text. One thing that works well if you are working with display text is to vary some serif and sans serif together, taking a little more creativity. So here we're going to play with some of the colors with my display text and see how we can get that to kind of work together. So that might be one option. Maybe instead of having it on the path, this time we're just going to kind of rotate it in, kind of just have that movement, see what that looks like. Not really wild about that, so I'm going to undo that using Command Z. Start just combining those fonts together, thinking about the relationship of these shapes rather than just thinking about it as type. So I like how that's looking with Colorado kind of going along the top of the mountain. I like that relationship there. Might want to change the color on this. And so that is really how you work with your display type. Start thinking in terms of how can I move this, how can I rotate that, maybe typing on a path, using color, using font selection to pull things together.